I am the only son of 4 children. My parents cherished me and loved me very much. They loved me too much that they wanted to control many aspects of my life, including whom I married, especially my mom. They wanted to tell me how to live my life. I looked up to my parents and tried to be a good, obedient son. Welcome to Human Heart Stories. My name is Julie, and today I'll be telling a story called My Mom Hates My Wife. Some men learn things the hard way, so remember who you are building a life with. Thank you to this man for sharing your story. Please listen with me, help like this video, and subscribe to this channel for more stories. And so he said, by the time I was 15, my older sisters have all gotten married. Being the only one left living with my parents, they spoiled me even more. They worked hard and did not expect me to do much in return. They provided for me and gave me everything I wanted. My parents made sure I had nice new clothes to wear to school, like everyone else, even if that meant working longer hours or selling something else they already had. And when my mom cooked a meal, they saved me the best pieces. So I thought to myself, I have to be the best son that I can be to make it worth my parents' love and devotion for me. As my parents got older, I started thinking about getting married. I was still in school, but I wanted a wife so that my wife and I could be the ones working hard and my parents could work less. I didn't have a girlfriend at the time yet, but I told my parents of my desire to find a girlfriend and get married. My dad is more of a relaxed kind of guy, and so was flexible about who I was dating. My mother, however, is a different story. She is very picky and was quick to bash certain types of women. She said to me, "Son, make sure you marry a good girl who comes from a good family. Don't just date random women whom you don't know anything about their family tree. You want to look at their family and see if they have good genes and good values. Someone like that can love your father and I. I've seen so many bad daughter-in-laws who hate their mother and father-in-laws." I got an earful from my mother, and I hadn't even began my serious dating quest yet. But she continued, "Make sure you don't just date any random girl from school. You must let me know about her family." I responded, "Okay then. I know it's important. That's why I wanted to inform you both. Otherwise, I wouldn't be sharing this with you and would date anyone to my liking." Then Mom said, "Son, I know the perfect daughter-in-law." She told me about a good friend's daughter. Mom said that this friend is well off and they are good people. I suspected she also wanted to be further acquainted through a marriage between the children. She continued, "I've seen the daughter doing her chores. I've seen her many times. Very proper girl. If you marry her, I know she would love your dad and I very much. Her parents and I are very good friends. Very good family." I told Mom, "Mom, I have seen her many times, but have never thought about her as being more than a friend. I'm not too attracted to her. Plus, I don't know if she'll be attracted to me too." Mom fired up, "Son, trust the elders' knowledge. At your age, you don't know how to find a good wife yet. I've been around this family often and know how they are like, so their children have good values. If you love your dad and I as much as you say, then listen to what I say. At least go talk to her for now. And then I said, Mom, I see her at school, but she is usually with another man. I'm sure she has a boyfriend. But that did not bother Mom. She encouraged me to begin courting the daughter anyway. I then decided to start courting her to see where things go. But from what I recall, this daughter was somewhat snobbish. We weren't that friendly in school with each other either, though she was rather social. While I had this conversation with my mom, my mind was actually on another girl. This girl had started classes with us early in the semester, but soon dropped out. Her parents were struggling financially, and so she dropped out to work full time. I had dropped by her house to visit her a few times. I was starting to like her a lot. But I told Mom, Okay, Mom, I'll go talk to your friend's daughter and we'll let you know how things go. One day, while we were on school break with nothing much to do, Mom told me to go help her friend on their farm. And so I went. Their daughter was there. I helped her carry some stuff and started a conversation with her. I said, My mom thinks you would be a great daughter in law. What do you think about us dating? She responded, Our parents are too close. It's a little embarrassing, don't you think? There are so many other girls out there you can date instead. Why don't you go talk to those other girls? I found her to be pretty, but was rather relieved she had said that. I wasn't very attracted to her strong personality. She's rather outspoken too much, speaks her mind, and doesn't care much to be sensitive to others' feelings. She just wasn't my type. I came back home later that day and told Mom, Your friend's daughter doesn't like me. But Mom only told me to keep trying. Mom said, Well, if you don't try harder, then she will, of course, give her attention to others instead. I responded just to make Mom happy. Okay, Mom, I said. I started seeing the other girl I had met in school. I had to start lying to Mom. Each time Mom questioned who I was going out with, I would tell her that it was her friend's daughter. Mom was happy at that. But a few days later, Mom found out the truth. She was upset and gave me a good scolding. Then, another few days later, Mom got news that her friend's daughter had gotten married. She eloped with the boyfriend I had seen at school. Mom scolded me some more and said it was my fault for giving up and not trying harder. That's why the daughter got married. I said to Mom, Mom, I told you she had a boyfriend and that she didn't like me. Mom stayed upset for a little while there and then finally stopped talking about it. But then, before that, she said, Well, the good one got away. I'm not going to tell you anymore who to date or not. You should have listened to me the first time. I was relieved and happy my mom was finally out of my dating business. So I spent more and more time seeing the girl I liked. She lived alone with her mother and younger siblings. Her parents were divorced. She started school again, and we started going to school together. My mom became aware of who I was dating and didn't bother me much. I said to Mom, What do you think about my girlfriend? She replied, I don't know. As long as you know it's someone with a good heart. Someone who can love your dad and I. It's a gamble with her. But if it was my friend's daughter, then I would know for sure she would be a good daughter-in-law. It's up to you now. Mom still couldn't get over the friend's daughter. She was so heartbroken about it. My goodness. From time to time, Mom would see the daughter and her husband and say to me with a disappointed tone of voice, She loves her husband so much. She loves her mother and father in law too. What a pity to not have her as my daughter in law. If only she would divorce her husband, then I would make sure you married her this time. I did not understand Mom's obsession with the daughter. I was just relieved she got married to someone else first so that I could date whomever I choose. I soon proposed to my girlfriend. We got married 6 months later. My mom, being my mom, wanted to know the wedding gifts we received and how much my wife's dowry was. I told Mom, my wife's parents are divorced, so her mother supported all the children and doesn't have much. My wife's dowry is not much at all. My mom was disappointed. Divorced? She shook her head and continued, how unfortunate you married a poor family. If I had known her family was that poor, I would have guarded you better until you won the favor of my friend's daughter. Her parents work hard. Now she would have gotten a huge dowry. I just told Mom not to say those things for my wife to hear. Mom had a fast mouth. I had to warn my wife. Please be patient with my mom. Now that she's older, she talks a lot more and may say random things without thinking. She might even appear childish at times. My wife was caring and respectful of my parents. When she cooked meals, she would leave my parents with the best pieces. When she cooked a whole chicken, she would leave them each a huge chicken leg. She would say to Mom, Mother in law, I left both you and Dad a chicken leg in the pot on the stove. But if it was not served in front of my mom, Mom would eat in silence like a child, drinking the broth only, slurping on the juice like she had been neglected of meat. Then later, she would tell the whole world how she had such a horrible daughter in law. Her daughter in law was selfish and only served leftover broth to her and my dad. She would say. People would come back to tell my wife to not be like that. My wife was hurt and confused. She wasn't sure why my mom was spreading bad rumors about her, especially rumors that were not true. I then told my wife, I'm sorry. My mom can be childish and is becoming a grumpy old woman. The next time you make whole chicken, be sure to serve the chicken leg in her face. Grab her hand and make sure she holds the chicken in her hands. And so the next time, my wife did as I advised. And from that point forward, my mom ran out of reasons to complain about my wife. But still, she couldn't resist whispering about how much more wonderful her friend's daughter would have been as a daughter in law. By now, my wife knew about the daughter in law that got away. She questioned me one day. So, who is this daughter I hear your mom talk about all the time? How come you didn't marry her if your mom liked her that much? I told her she already had a boyfriend and then they got married. But I was never interested in her anyway, so don't worry about it, even if my mom keeps bringing her up. Mom is just old and grumpy. She needs to get over it. But I knew my wife was hurt and didn't feel good about being compared all the time to this friend's daughter. She continued being patient and took care of my parents well. When my wife became pregnant with our first child, she experienced tiredness and nausea. Mom took that new opportunity to gossip again about how lazy my wife was. As soon as my wife was out of earshot, my mom would whisper to me, Daughter-in-law is so lazy. She slept in all morning. Make sure to wake her up and don't let her become lazy like that. I said, Mom, my wife is pregnant. It's likely from the pregnancy, so it's okay. Mom said, "Oh my goodness, I don't think it's the pregnancy. That is just pure laziness. She just doesn't want to cook and clean. I can't believe she's waiting for me to do everything." I admit it was my fault. My fault for not helping with my wife's chore so that mom wouldn't be doing them and have a reason to complain about. When mom swept the floors or did some dishes, she would complain the entire time about how unfortunate she was to have such a lazy daughter in law. And she would say, "When I was pregnant, I wasn't tired like that. I still had so much energy. I did all the chores around the house. I never once slept like that. Why is your wife making an excuse to be so lazy? Such a liar! Just plain lazy." And mom would shake her head. Then she would come back and scold me. I told you to marry my friend's daughter." Soon my wife could hear it all, and she cried to me. She said, "I feel so exhausted and weak. I can barely eat. Why don't you help me with some chores around the house so mom isn't so upset?" So then I started doing some of the chores. As soon as I picked up a broom, mom had something to say. As soon as I washed a plate, mom also had something to say. She shook her head at me. "Look at you. Now you have to do chores for your wife. Keep it up, son, and your wife will only get lazier. Don't you know these are just women duties? But soon you'll be the one cooking and cleaning for your wife. I'm warning you." My wife heard my mom again and got up slowly to help make lunch. She looked tired and pale, and as soon as she was done, she went back to bed. Then mom said, "Oh, she's not joining us for dinner? Is it 'cause she heard me complaining to you and it hurted her feelings so now she doesn't want to eat with me?" Mom had a reason for everything. Every day, mom complained. When my wife was present, she would complain indirectly. As soon as my wife was out of earshot, her complaints got worse, her loud nagging in my ear. So all day, every day, I heard mom complain about this and that, nagged how my wife is like this and that. She would say things like, "Son, as soon as you left the house, your wife was so mean to your dad and I. She did this and that. She doesn't love us at all. When she cooks, she doesn't want us to eat with her. When she goes shopping, she comes home and hides the stuff she bought. If this continues, I could die." Mom would even cry to me. And then my wife would cry to me too. The way my mom was treating her was becoming unbearable. I told my wife, "Please continue to be patient. Moving out is not an option for us right now. My parents are getting older, so they need us here." And she said, "As long as you love me, then I can continue to bear it." I soon was sick and tired of my mom's gossips and nagging. As soon as mom complained, I would ask my wife about it. My wife would deny my mom's allegations and say, "No, that is not true. That is not what happened." I was going crazy and tried to avoid being near mom. When I started ignoring my mom, she cried even louder and said, "My goodness, you are my only son that I love so much. And now you are siding with your wife and are against me too?" Time went by, and 5 years later, my wife and I now had 2 children. My mom had gradually stopped her constant nagging, or at least it wasn't every day anymore. But not long afterwards, mom's friend's daughter divorced. She had moved back home with her parents. As soon as my mom found out, she started her gossiping again. Mom paid visits to her friend's house. She said to the daughter, "If I knew you were going to divorce this soon, I would have never allowed my son to get married yet." Mom didn't even know if it was the daughter's fault or the husband's, but Mom bought into what the daughter said anyway. The daughter said, "My husband didn't love me at all. I couldn't take it anymore, so that's why I left him." The daughter started showering my mom with little gifts such as fruits and vegetables, and Mom was so easy to please. Then she would say to me, waving the stuff in my face, "See, son, I told you friend's daughter is a good person and can love your father and I. She cares about me so much. Look at all the stuff she bought me." Mom purposely did it in front of my wife. I started a new job that required traveling. I would be gone for days at a time, and things got worse at home for my wife. Mom started inviting the friend's daughter over. They grew close, and Mom made it clear to her she favored her over my wife, and that gave the daughter more reason to stick around. Each time I returned home, Mom and my wife would each have a story to tell me. I was stressed. The days when I was home, the friend's daughter would come over and pretend to want to hang out with my mom. She wore tight outfits, the shortest skirts just to cover her buttocks. Then she would come up with random reasons to talk to me, such as asking me to help fix her phone. When my wife was not around, she would strategically place her hands on my knees or shoulders. My mom soon started telling me to divorce my wife. She said, "We have such luck that my friend's daughter divorced. Her ex-husband was very cruel and abusive. She was a good daughter-in-law. Don't you see how much she loves me?" Then one day, while I was away for work, I got an emergency phone call from home. My wife had made lunch, and after cooking, she left to tend to our kids. As soon as my mom ate, my mom choked, nearly fainted, and fell over in her chair. My dad was fine, however. They went to the hospital, and the friend's daughter showed up there as well. As soon as my mom felt better, she accused my wife of poisoning her. The daughter chimed in with her, talking about how bad my wife was. That my wife had planned it because my wife didn't eat with them on purpose and dad was fine. So my wife made a plot against my mom. Mom called me crying, said she felt so sick and was dying. When I returned home, my wife was home. I asked about the situation. She cried and said she wasn't sure why Mom had fainted. Perhaps Mom had a food allergy, but I did not poison her, she said. I don't know if my mom and the friend's daughter planned this or not, but I admit I did not give my wife very much comfort. I didn't say anything at all to make her feel better. I just rushed to the hospital irritated. Mom was discharged shortly. The doctors couldn't say exactly what had caused Mom's episode, but said that she was fine, and so she was released home. We got home, and my wife was nowhere to be found. I thought Mom told me she was sick and dying, but in her loudest tone of voice she said, "Daughter-in-law is not home 'cause she is too embarrassed to face me." I went looking for my wife. I finally found her alone at our garden. She gave me an ultimatum and said, "Dear, you have three choices. 1. We move out and get our own place. 2. You divorce me. Or 3. You watched me die in that house. I didn't know what to do, but I was finally able to convince her to come back home. From this point forward, my wife started talking back to my mother. Oh, she stood up for herself now and no longer allowed mom to bully her. The atmosphere got worse in the house, arguing every day, back and forth. Soon, my wife and I started arguing too. All the while, mom continued to persuade me to divorce my wife, that she was gonna die living like this. They both fought for my attention. As soon as it seemed I picked a side, the other one would cry. There was no peace in that house. Mom was always in my ears, so my wife started losing trust in me, and our arguments got worse. My wife then said to me, I know you won't move out, so now your other choices are to divorce me or watch me die in this house. I said, okay then. Yes, I can't move out and abandon my parents. I don't want to be the cause of your death either. So then I guess the only option is to divorce you. She said, fine. I am so sick and tired of this life with you and your mother. So then we divorced. I really did it more for my mother because I still missed my wife very much. And I knew she still missed me and loved me very much. I didn't really want to do it, but I was out of ideas. My mom was joyful, and her friend's daughter soon visited every single day. She would even flirt with me in front of my parents. She had no reservations. But inside, I felt like I was dying. I missed my wife so much. I felt heartbroken and lonelier than ever. But I still called her every day. When I visited the kids, my wife would cry. She missed me a lot too. She had moved in temporarily with an uncle. She said to me, Dear, as long as you remain living with your parents, then I can never come back to you. But you can visit me here. I started visiting her secretly, but I don't know when the friend's daughter found out, and she told my mom and my wife's uncle. I got an earful, and then shortly, my wife's uncle sent her to live in another town, much further away from me. The friend's daughter started showering me with gifts and continued to visit. She would buy me clothes and groceries all the time. Over time, I started missing my ex-wife less. I thought to myself, well, this is the one Mom approves. Mom likely won't let me marry anyone else anyway. So fine, let me marry the one Mom approves this time. Soon, the friend's daughter and I got married. Then later on, my ex-wife remarried. The pain was unbearable. She was the woman of my life. My second wife became a totally new person shortly after we married. 6 months later, as soon as she became comfortable with the family, her true self came out. A woman who fakes her character cannot carry that on for long. There were days where I would have to literally push her out of bed to wake up. Anything that I wanted her to do, she would argue back or do things her own way, 'cause her way was the best way. She spent her spare time visiting with friends in the neighborhood every day. Then she would come home, wash her hands clean, and eat my mom's cooking. Mom never said a word. It was amusing how much tolerance my mom had this time. Not long afterwards, my wife refused to eat Mom's cooking. She said, Mother's old now. I don't know if she washes her hands clean before she cooks. Still, Mom didn't dare say a word. Wow, the patience Mom had that I didn't know was in her. I left for work for 2 weeks. When I returned, Mom cried to me. She said her and Dad had been working hard farming while I was gone, but that it's been hard because they're getting old, so they are barely done with their farming. I asked, "What about my wife? Didn't she help you?" Mom said, "Oh, no. She said she doesn't feel well because she's expecting, so she didn't help." I spoke to my wife, and soon we got into an argument. Then she even compared me to her first husband, stating I wasn't even as good as her first husband. She stormed off to her parents' house. I didn't care. I left to help my parents farm. And there I complained about my wife, then said to Mom, "If it was my first wife, everything would be complete already. You wouldn't have to work this hard." Mom didn't utter a sound. That evening, we had dinner by ourselves. As I ate with my parents, Mom cried. She cried about how much daughter-in-law hates them and how she treats them when I'm gone. She said, "Daughter-in-law cooks nice meals and eats them all by herself. She never invites me or your dad to eat with her." I was angry, so I said to Mom, "Suits you, Mom. You didn't appreciate my first wife. Now you have the daughter-in-law of your dreams, so just put up with it." Mom didn't respond. But inside, it was my loss. I was hurting and missing my first wife. Once in a while, I would go visit my kids and see her happily married with her new husband. He treated her well. The pain is there each time, but there's nothing I can do now. My life today is in chaos, and it's only working because I'm the one biting my tongue, bearing it all. If I didn't, then bombs would explode. I don't want to go through multiple divorces and start my life over again, so I am bearing with it. This story ends here. Thank you for listening to Human Heart Stories. Please remember to like this video and subscribe to this channel for more stories.